Hi, our topic for today is the introduction to income taxation. So we are already done with the introduction to taxation, the tax administration, and the whole process of taxation here in the Philippines. We are now going into the different types of taxes that is levied by the government in the Philippines. So in your college degree, you will learn about this three main tax that is imposed by the government. So we have your income taxation, we have your business and transfer taxation, we have your local and preferential taxation. So those are your three tax subjects here in your undergrad. And for this particular course, we will dwell more on income taxation. So before we dwell into income taxation, we must first have an introduction to income taxation. So for this particular video, we will learn about introduction to income taxation. So what should we expect in this video? First, we are to define income tax, and then we will learn about the purpose of income tax and the nature and characteristics of income tax, the features of income tax, the income tax systems, and income tax schemes. Let's start with the definition of income tax. So how do we define an income tax? An income tax is a tax on income, whether gross or net. So why do we say that an income tax is a tax on income? An income tax is a tax on income because the test of faculty for taxation is the income. So whenever there is an income, we call that income tax. And if ever that income is taxed, of course, that is an income tax. Next, you tax it whether gross or net. So this is the manner of taxation. So we can either tax it at gross or at net. So when we say we tax it at gross, we mean that we tax the income without any reduction. We tax the income without any reduction. So we tax the income itself. So for example, you have an income amounting to 300,000. The 300,000 will be taxed. We call that gross taxation. Gross taxation. How about your net? When we say we tax it at net, there are reductions that is allowed under our law. So it can be reduced based on our laws. Reduced based on our laws. So that we call that net income taxation. Okay, so a tax on income, whether gross or net. So we go now to the nature of income tax. What is the nature of an income tax? Our mnemonic here is die again. Our mnemonic here is die again. So first, we have direct. So when we say direct, the burden and the incidence rest on one person. So direct, the burden and incidence rest on one person, and that is the income earner. So whoever earns the income has the burden to pay the tax. Whoever earns the income has the burden to pay the tax. So when we say has the burden to pay the tax, he actually pays the tax. When we say actually pays, hindi ibig sabihin nun na siya yung pumunta sa BIR at siya yung nagbayad. When we say actually pays the tax, sa kanya nang galing yung pambayad ng tax. So siya pa rin yung nagbayad ultimately. So when we say, again, he has the burden of taxation, he must pay his own tax. When we say he must pay his own tax, he actually paid it because the payment came from him as the income earner. Next, it is also considered as an excise tax because it is imposed for those persons who earns an income. It is imposed on persons who earns an income. Remember during our introduction, we said that your excise tax is a tax on the privilege. Here, the privilege here is the earning of income. So because of the earning of income, you are taxed. So One nature is, it is an excise tax. Next, it is an ad valorem tax. It is an ad valorem tax, so it is based on the value or amount of income. Value or amount of income. So ad valorem, value, or amount of income. It is also considered as a general tax. So when we say general tax, this is based on the purpose of levying the tax. And remember, when we say general tax, it is for general purpose. And the general purpose means it is for the raising of revenue. Raising of revenue for the government. Lastly, it is a national tax. So why is it a national tax again? Because this tax is imposed by the national government. It is imposed by the national government, okay? So nature of taxation. So if you ever ask, these are different natures of taxation except, so you have this mnemonic, again, direct, excise, ad valorem, general, and national. Take note, ad valorem means it is an addition based on value. So we tax it based on value of the income. We proceed. What is the purpose of income tax? So the purpose of income tax, remember, it is for general purpose. Therefore, that is to raise revenue for the government. And generally, out of the different national taxes that is imposed or levied by the government, the income tax is the largest contributory to the revenue of the government. The income tax is the largest contributory to the revenue of the government. So it provides a large amount of revenue to the government. Another purpose is it removes the inequalities in the distribution and wealth, which are deterrents to social progress. So why does it remove the inequalities? Because guys, this is based on the ability to pay. When we say based on ability to pay, we base the income based on whether the income earner has the ability to pay higher or lower. So we remove the inequality because if we tax it at a certain percentage only, everything is taxed at a certain percentage, that is not so equal. Why? Because although you're earning much and someone earns lower than that, you are taxed equally. That is not right. That is not right. It is better that we tax it based on a progressive or graduated tax rate. That's why one characteristic of your income tax is that it is based on a progressive tax rate. That is to remove the inequalities in the income and wealth. Okay, so we proceed. Features of income tax. So the following are features of income tax. First, it is comprehensive. So we learned before that when we say comprehensive, you can tax anything. But that is as to comprehensive as to the power of taxation. But when we say comprehensive income tax, we mean that it is comprehensive because it includes all possible criteria or basis. So it is comprehensive because it includes all possible criteria or basis. So what are these possible criteria or basis? First can be the residence of the taxpayer. So this is one criteria whether you will tax a person or not based on its residence. Next, if ever it does not fall on the residence here in the Philippines, then at the place of the income. So either if ever it is not resident here, but the income is earned here, then we can still tax it. Last possible criteria is the nationality. So let's say, although you are not here when you earn that income, and although the place of income is not here, but you are a national of this particular country, then we can also tax you. That's why we say it is comprehensive. Kumbaga, walang lusot. So you can be taxed based on your residence alone. You can be taxed based on the place of income alone. And you can be taxed based on your nationality alone. We will more appreciate this as we go through your income tax status, which is the next topic after this. Next, we have your progressive. Another feature of income tax is progressive. So why do we say that your income tax is progressive? Because again, we use your graduated tax rate. So our income tax table follows a graduated tax rate. So as you can see, if ever you try to research, our income tax table looks like this. So 0 to 250,000, 0%. And then we have 250,000 to 400,000, we have 20%. And then we have 400,000 to 800,000. I think this is 30,000 plus 25%. 800,000 to I don't know already, and a certain percentage, 30%, etc. Okay, so as you can see, there is a graduation on the particular amount of taxation or amount of tax. So we base it on the, what do you call this one? Range of income. We base it on the range of income. So if the range of your taxable income is 0 to 250, you are net taxed. 250 to 400, you are taxed at 20%. Okay, progressive. Next, pay as you file. So what do we mean by pay as you file system? This pay as you file system pertains as to the payment of tax. So the payment of tax should be done at the time of filing of income tax return. Should be done at the time of filing of income tax return. So for example, you file your income tax return here right now, then you should also pay the income tax. But sir, how do we pay the income tax? Should we pay it to the BIR? The income tax now can be paid through the different government accredited banks. So when you say government accredited banks, it is not a government bank. So long as it is accredited by the government as a partner of the BIR in collecting taxes, then you can pay. So for example, you can pay on BPI, you can pay on Security Bank, you can pay on Metro Bank. So those are government accredited banks. Okay, so pay as you file system. Next, we have your withholding tax system. Withholding tax system. So what is this withholding tax system? The income payer will withhold a certain percentage of the income payee. Okay. The income payer will withhold a certain percentage of the income payee. Sir, what do we mean by that? Okay. So we have here, let's say A and B. Si A, babayaran niya si B. Kasi si B, nag-render siya ng services kay A. So may mga services siya kay A. So si A, kailangan niyang magbigay ng compensation. Now, when A will provide the compensation, let's say ang compensation ni B ay 300,000, si A, ang tawag sa kanya ay income payer. Siya yung nagbabayad ng income ni B. Si B naman, ang tawag sa kanya ay income payee. Income payee. So, ang income talaga ni B ay 300,000. So, ang gagawin ni A, using the withholding tax system, magbabawas siya ng certain percentage. So, magbabawas siya ng certain percentage. Okay? That is withholding tax system. So, when we say withholding tax system, guys, this is imposed by the government that in case you pay an income, you must withhold an income. Because the rule now, if you don't have any withholding, you cannot deduct that as an expense. You must withhold any payment you made so that you can deduct it as an expense also on the part of income payer. And for income payee, of course, it is up on the income payee whether to report that income or not. But for the income payer, it is necessary for him, especially if the income payer wants to use that as a reduction on its income tax. Okay, so withholding tax system here in the Philippines is composed of at least two types. First is your final withholding tax system, or FWT. And also we have your creditable withholding tax system, or CWT. So what is the difference between your final and creditable withholding tax? So we have here your final and we have here your creditable. Final and creditable. As to the amount withheld. As to the amount withheld, in your final, the amount withheld is equal to the tax payable. Okay? The amount withheld is equal to the tax payable. While in your creditable, the amount withheld is not equal to your tax payable. So for example, the income of B is 300,000. So using final, let's say the tax on that income is 30,000. So this is the tax due. Tax due. Less any withholding. Less any withholding. So let's say the income payer withheld 30,000 also. So you have here 0. So your tax payable is 0. As you can see, the amount of withholding here is equal to your tax payable. Why? Because here 30,000 is equal to your tax due of 30,000. Actually, let's remove your tax payable instead and change it to tax due. Okay, so the amount of withholding here is equal to your tax due. So we withheld 30,000 and our tax due is 30,000, therefore it is equal. Then we say the withholding is final. Final because you will not pay at all. Okay, final because you will not pay at all. While in a creditable withholding tax, you will still pay. You will still pay. So for example, we have here creditable. Our tax due is 30,000, but the amount withheld is only 15,000. So the tax payable is 15,000. So here, the amount of withholding is not equal to the tax due. Here, we said in your final, no more tax payable on that income. No more tax payable on that income. While in your creditable, there is still a tax payable on that income. Okay, again, final and creditable. Here in your final, the amount of withholding is equal to your tax due. Therefore, you will not pay anything on that income. So even if we earn 300,000, the amount of withholding is enough already for that income. The amount of withholding is enough already for that income. While in a creditable withholding tax, what happens here is that the amount of withholding is not equal to the amount of tax due. Since the amount of withholding is not equal to the amount of tax due, what happens here, guys, is that there is still a tax payable. And what is the amount of your tax payable? 15,000. So take note, in a final withholding tax, there is no tax payable on that income. But in a creditable withholding tax, there is still a tax payable on that income. Okay? So again, withholding tax system, the income payer withholds a certain percentage of the income payee. So this particular income that is withheld is to be submitted or to be paid to the BIR. Okay? So the income payer now will remit the amount withheld to the BIR. So in case natatanong ninyo na, sir, anong mangyayari dun sa withheld ni income payer? So sa income payer, de-deposit niya yan or i-remit na kay BIR. Okay. Next, we have your substituted filing. Substituted filing. By the way, before we proceed to substituted filing, I forgot another difference between your final and creditable is as to the subject. Okay, as to the subject. So what is the subject of final withholding tax? Only certain passive income. Only certain passive income. Sir, what do we mean by certain passive income, or what do we mean by passive income itself? So when we say passive income, this is an income earned that the income earner did not participate in earning that income. So wala siyang ginawa, pero kumita siya. passive income. Wala siyang ginawa, pero kumita siya. So for example, interest. Wala naman siyang trinabaho at all, pero kumikita pa rin siya ng interest. Okay? Another type of passive income is a dividend. So wala naman siyang ginawa. Nag-invest lang siya, pero kumikita siya. So hindi siya nagtrabaho on the earning process of the dividend, pero meron pa rin siyang dividend. Gets? So that is a passive income. How about an active income? So when we say active income, ito yung may ginagawa ka talaga kaya ka kumita. So for example, your compensation. Kaya meron kang compensation kasi nagtatrabaho ka. We call that an active income. So in income taxation, we classify it either as passive or active income. We classify it either as passive or active income. And based on that classification, we tax it based on that classification. Okay, so if ever, only certain passive income, so when we say certain, only those enumerated under the tax code to be subject to final income taxation. So only those certain passive income. How about your creditable income tax? On your creditable income tax, both active and passive income can be subject of creditable withholding tax. Both active or passive income will be subject to creditable withholding tax. Therefore, guys, we will learn that not all passive income are subject to final tax. Not all passive income are subject to final tax, but all active income is subject to creditable income tax. Because, take note, only passive income is the subject of final tax, while creditable, active, and passive. So certain passive for final, creditable, active, and certain passive also. Clear? Okay, so we will learn what are the different final taxes as we go through. Okay, so withholding tax system, it can be final, it can be creditable. Next, we proceed to substituted filing. Substituted filing. So what do we mean by substituted filing? So when we say substituted filing, here the taxpayer is no longer required to file an income tax, but the excuse me, but the income payer files in his behalf. Okay, the taxpayer is no longer required to file an income tax return, but the income payer files in his behalf. Sir, sabi nyo kanina, pay as you file. O sabi ko nga, pay as you file. That is as to the filing itself. So pag nag-file ka, magbabayad ka. Gets? Kung sino yung nag-file, siya yung magbabayad. Pero sir, sabi nyo pa rin kanina, direct. Kasi nga, sabi pa rin natin, kahit sino man yung nag-file niyan, kung sino pa rin yung pinaka nag-earn ng income, siya pa rin naman yung magbabayad. So please, sana hindi kayo malito sa direct, sa pay as you file, at saka substituted filing. So what happens here in the substituted filing, the income payer is the one who files the income tax. The income payer is the one who files the income tax return and also pays the income tax. This happens only for compensation income earner. Compensation income earner. So what is this compensation income earner? Ito yung mga kumikita dahil nagtatrabaho sila, dahil meron silang service na binigay. These are in the form of compensation. So this substituted filing system is provided by a revenue regulation, which is numbered 30-2002. So this was enacted year 2002. So before you can proceed in substituted filing, we have these following requisites. Before you can proceed to substituted filing, we have these following requisites. First, you must be a pure compensation income earner. Pure compensation income earner. So, sir, what do you mean by pure compensation income earner? Guys, there are different sources of income. That can be compensation, that can be interest, that can be dividends, that can be profession. If you are a pure compensation income earner, you can qualify in your substituted filing system. Okay? Next. So when we say pure compensation income, yung income niya lang manggagaling lagi sa compensation. Yung income niya lang manggagaling lagi sa compensation. Another requisite of this substituted filing is you must only have one employer. So only one, so only one employer. And lastly, the tax withheld is equal to tax due. The tax withheld is equal to tax due. Sir, bakit ano ba nangyayari sa compensation natin? So, mapapansin nyo dun sa compensation natin, meron tayong, this is your gross pay. May gross pay na nakalagay dyan. Tapos, less mandatory payments. Ibabawas natin yung mandatory payments na yan. Tapos, magkakaroon tayo ng net pay, pero ibabawas pa natin yung tax withheld. So, tax withheld. So, dito, may tax withheld. Na, alam naman na natin, di ba? In every income, there is a tax withholding. So, that can either be a creditable withholding tax or a final withholding tax. So, dito sa compensation, meron pa rin tayong tax withheld. Pero dito sa tax withheld na to, since ganito kasi yan, guys, pag we-withhold nila ng tax sa compensation, nako-compute na nila dati yan. Meron tayong withholding tax table na kung gagamitin nyo yung withholding tax table na yon, kung magkano man yung income niya for the whole year, yun na yung tamang na-withheld. So, nangyayari to sa ating pure compensation. Although, guys, the amount withhold here is only a creditable withholding tax. Pero dahil kasi doon sa tax table na gagamitin, mapapansin niyo soon na magiging equal yung amount na na-withheld doon sa total income niya. Okay, so the amount of tax withheld is equal to tax due. Okay, so again, substituted filing. What happens here? It is the income payer who actually files the return for the income payee, and this only applies to income or compensation income earner. And when we say compensation income earner, it is a pure compensation income earner, which only has one employer, and the tax withheld is equal to tax due. Sir, paano kung marami akong employer? Kung marami kang employer, hindi ka pwede dito. Dapat isa lang. Okay? Sir, bakit anong meron ba sa substituted filing? Pag substituted filing kasi, hindi mo na kailangan mag-file ng ITR. Sino mag-file para sa'yo ng ITR? Yung nag-withhold or yung employer mo mismo. Okay? Next characteristic of our income tax is it is based on a schedular system. It is based on a schedular system. So when we say based on this schedular system, it is based on different tax rules and tax treatment. Tax rules and tax treatment, and this tax rule or tax treatment is based on a category or a schedule. And normally, it is applied to individual taxpayer. And normally, it is applied to individual taxpayer. Next, global system. Global system. When we say global system, this applies to corporate taxpayer. So it treats in common all categories of taxable income of taxpayer and applies a uniform tax rate. So we tax in common the income. And we use a uniform tax rate. So kaya nga corporation is either 30% or 25%. This is flat rate na. Okay? Unlike sa schedular system, meron tayong progressive taxation based on the graduated tax rate. So meron pa tayong tax rates from 20% until 32%. Until 32% or 35%. Okay? So again, what are the features? It is comprehensive. It is progressive. Pay as you file. We have your withholding tax system. We have your substituted filing system, scheduler system, and global system. Next, we go to your income tax systems. So what do we mean by income tax system? So when we say income tax system, this is either gross income taxation or net income taxation. So a while back, we already had at least an introduction on what is gross or net based on the definition of income taxation. Sabi natin, all income tax, whether gross or net. So that is your gross income taxation and net income taxation. So what is the difference between gross and net income taxation? So under your gross income taxation and net income taxation, first difference is the tax base. The tax base in your gross income is your gross income. Di ba sabi natin kanina kung ano na yung income, doon na natin siya itatax. Kung ang income niya ay 300,000, yung buong 300,000, doon natin siya itatax. Pagka net income natin siya, it is based on your net income. So when we say net income, if the income is 300,000, pwede pa natin siyang bawasan on any deduction or allowed deduction. So it can be 300,000 less any allowed deductions. We call that net income taxation. We call that net income taxation. So if the basis is net income taxation. If the basis is gross income taxation. Next, as to claim deductions or exemptions. So generally, in a gross income taxation, it cannot be applied. So no application of deductions or exemptions. Why? Because you are taxed at gross income. And in net income taxation, this is applicable. So it is applicable. Sabi nga natin, you can deduct. So dito sa gross income, kumbaga 300,000, dyan ka na matatax. Sa net income, 300,000, pwede ka pang mag-deduct bago ka makakatax. So ang taxable income mo sa gross income taxation is the income itself. While your taxable income in your net income taxation is the income after your deductions. Next, as to applicability, where do we apply gross income taxation or net income taxation? Gross income taxation is applied to non-resident, alien, not engaged in trade or business, and not resident foreign corporation. Why? They are taxed based on gross income, and we use a flat rate. Or your uniform rate. While for net income taxation, this applies to other taxpayers. So, dalawa lang doon sa ating gross income, ha? Pag tinanong kayo, alin sa mga ito ang matatax at gross income? So, which of the following is taxed at gross income taxation? Your answer can only either be NRA and ETB or NRFC. All other else are subject to net income taxation. You will understand this as we go through. You will learn that all NRA and ATB, all NRFC, whatever type of income, it will always be a gross income and uniform rate. But all others, they can claim deductions. So as we go through your income tax, you will learn based on the taxation of NRA and ATB and NRFC as compared to other taxpayers, there is no really deduction in your NRA and ETB and NRFC. So as early as now, you must learn gross income taxation and net income taxation. And last topic for this particular video, we have your income tax schemes. We have your income tax schemes. So we have these different income tax schemes. We have your final taxation, your capital gains taxation, and your regular income tax. So in this income tax scheme, your income taxation is actually divided into two. We have your final tax and your regular income tax. So under your final tax, this means that the tax on the income is the tax on the income is based on a particular tax rate. So this is not to be included in the schedular tax. Okay? It is not to be included in the schedular tax. So ano meron pagka final tax? Merong particular tax rate lang na gagamitin dyan. So for example, certain passive income. So halimbawa, interest, 10%, dividends, 20% or 10%, etc. Sale of land, 6%. So kung alin na yon, kung ano yung rate na binigay doon, yun na yung babayaran mo lang. Okay? At saka hindi na natin siya i-include sa schedular tax. So sir, what do we mean by schedular tax? Ito yung matatax dun sa 0 to 250 to 50 to 400, etc. Okay? So once na final tax siya, hindi na siya kasama ng RIT. Ang RIT naman, all other income not subject to final tax. Okay? All other income not subject to final tax, and this will be tax based on schedular tax. This is tax based on schedular tax. And your final tax can either be a final tax on certain passive income, a final tax on certain passive income, or a capital gains tax. Okay? A final tax on a certain passive income or a capital gains tax. So, in your final tax on certain passive income, these are enumerated under our tax code, such as your royalties, your interest, your dividends, your prizes, your winnings. Those are final taxes. And for your CGT, this is specific on the sale of real property that is considered as a capital asset. That is considered as a capital asset. So sale of a real property that is considered as a capital asset. And another is first, sale of stocks. Okay. So final tax on certain passive income, this is enumerated. For CGT, dalawa lang ang masi-CGT. Yung real property na capital asset at saka stocks. Okay. And all other income is subject to regular income tax. All other income is subject to regular income tax. Sir, why do we need to learn about this income tax scheme? You need to learn about this income tax scheme para alam natin na pag, uy, na final tax na to, hindi ko dapat to idadagdag sa RIT. Uy, hindi pa to na final tax, so idadagdag ko to sa RIT. Bakit? Kasi, guys, hindi naman natin i-discuss yung income taxation na minsanan. I-discuss natin siya in a piecemeal basis. Therefore, pag natapos natin yung final tax, pag natapos na natin yung CGT, ibig sabihin nun, dapat hindi natin siya isama sa RIT na susundan. Para pag nagbigay tayo ng comprehensive problem sa RIT, alam na natin, oy, ito na final tax na to. Ay, ito na CGT to. Therefore, hindi ko na to isasama sa pag-compute using the tax table. Okay? So, eto, iba yung pag-tax ko dito. Paano ko to itatax ulit? Merong certain percentage ang gagamitin dyan. Pwedeng 6%, pwedeng 10%, pwedeng 20%, pwedeng 15%. So, provided lahat yan sa law. Okay? So, dapat alam natin. Pag na-subject na sa final tax, hindi isasama sa RIT. Pag hindi na subject sa final tax, isasama sa RIT. Okay? So, income tax scheme. So, we already know how to tax it. It can either be gross or net income taxation. And we also know where to tax it, either final tax or RIT. Okay? So for our next meeting or the next video, we will learn now regarding your income taxpayers, gross income, and their, what do you call this one? Income status. And then we can already proceed to final taxation, which is your CGT and final tax on certain passive income. And then we go now to your schedular tax system. So here in income tax, our discussions will only revolve on the taxation of the income, either at final tax or at RIT. So I hope you appreciate that as early as now para alam niyo kung paano ba natin ita-tax. Tandaan, lahat ng income pwedeng i-tax. Ang tanong, paano siya ita-tax? Final tax ba or RIT? Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you.